Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Niladri Mukherjee. I'm a regulated Canadian immigration consultant. I practice in Mississauga, Ontario, Canada. I'm also the founder and the CEO of Novo Nation Immigration Consulting. So let's touch upon Canadian startup visa a little bit because we have not spoken for it in a little while. So what's really happening in that case, particularly after the recent announcement that the government of Canada, RCIC, will enable processing of startup visa applications much faster. There will be higher quota and whatnot. So let's dip down into it. First of all, on an overall basis, these applications are actually been performing better than expected, better than the previous year so far as the approval ratings go. If you have followed my previous video, I told it categorically that Canadian Startup Visa is one such program with one of the lowest success ratio. Now, um, out of the 100 applications, for example, in general, 3 to 4% only become successful, and because of a multitude of reasons for it. That percentage I have seen started changing. We as an organization, we are very careful about choosing very few startup ideas and clients to work on it, because we know that there is no point in taking money from a client if you are not sure of the success. I mean, we cannot guarantee the success, but at least based on the experience, we know which case has the potential to be successful. But in general, the success ratio overall in the industry wide has started becoming better. That is a good sign. Another good sign here is that the processing time for the work permit has gone down quite drastically. If you make a work permit application today, it will you will probably get a decision within like next 3 months kind of a time. Sometimes, surprisingly, we see the decisions coming in like 15-20 days of time as well for a startup visa applications. But I would treat those cases as exceptions. But the general processing time for a work permit application is about 3 months, give or take, regardless of the country that you applied from. So that has gone down. What has gone up is the permanent residency processing time. It has always been the case with Canadian startup visa because you get a work permit, so the government always does not prioritize your PR application, which is fair enough, which makes sense. But the general processing time trend shows that the permanent residency applications are being taking more time, on an average about 1.5 years. Now, sometimes it used to take way longer. So you may say that, well, 1.5 years is a reasonable time. But there have been cases where we got approval literally within like 7-8 months of the permanent residency applications, right? So the 1.5 years on an average is on a higher scale, at least for the majority of the clients. So the permanent residency processing time has gone up. Another thing has really gone up for the Canadian startup visa landscape is the number of applicants. With express entry almost practically non-existing for a good chunk of clients, with after a certain age that plan to come from outside Canada, with the higher number of people, if you will, that are willing to come to Canada today, the the number of applicants who otherwise are interested to apply for startup visa have really gone up quite a bit, and that has a direct repercussion, in my opinion, with the overall rating and with the overall approval ratio, with the overall processing time. But the general interest level is quite very high, which means that this field, this overall startup visa space, is going to be way more competitive in the months, in the years to come, than what it is currently. So that's something for you to keep in mind if you have to venture into that. Another important aspect that I thought to tell you, that I hear quite very often from consultations, is that my consultant, my incubator has asked me to work with this very specific consultant because they say that that consultant is an empaneled consultant, but I'm not comfortable in working with the consultant, or maybe the consultant is charging way high fees that I'm not able to afford. Will there be any negative repercussions if I do not end up working with that consultant? Absolutely no. First of all, yes, the incubator can very well suggest you whom to work with, but it's your money. You are paying to that consultant or a lawyer, so it's ultimately your decision whom you end up working with. And frankly, you can make those applications on your own if you are confident about it. So there is no such frankly positive and negative repercussions of working with your incubator suggested consultant or a lawyer. It's completely your choice. Work with somebody that you are more comfortable with. Another aspect of the overall process is that signing a retainer agreement with the incubator. A lot of clients that I that actually come for a consultations after working with a couple of consultants, and they come to me because of their previously bad experience. And when I deep dive into the documents, I find it that many of the clients do not even have a formal signed retainer agreement with the incubator. This is not true. You are paying your hard-earned money to somebody regardless of how nice the person is, what kind of Google reviews that the person have. You should always have a retainer agreement signed. Something should be there in black and white. One copy of the retainer should be with the incubator, another copy should be with you, and do not end up working with anybody without a formal retainer agreement. So that is your guarantee, that is your copy, that you have paid money to somebody. So always ensure that you have a retainer agreement signed with your incubator. Another aspect to keep in mind is the amount of money that you are paying to the incubator. Now, I am nobody to say how much money an incubator should be charging. They are the competent designated authority. They know what they're doing and they are charging money accordingly. Fair enough, I get it. But at the same time, do not pay like exorbitantly high fees to an incubator if somebody tells you that, well, if you pay money, your cases will be like super successful. No, they are not the decision making authority. They are not IRCC. They have no way to tell you whether the cases will be successful or unsuccessful or whatever. So do not pay exorbitant amount of money to an incubator regardless of the kind of assurance that the person gives. Another aspect is that can you change consultant or a lawyer in between a startup visa process if you are not happy with your existing consultant or a lawyer? This is a very, very common situation. A startup visa, a Canadian startup visa, is such a project that requires you to have a long term relationship with the consultant. Now, if because of whatever reason you're not happy working with the consultant or a lawyer, you can very well change the representation right. You can very well sign a new retainer agreement with the consultant, a new use of representative form with the consultant, and the consultant can very well take over the case from there, and your previous consultant will then have no right on your case. This is very much a possibility. So you are not stick to somebody. So, for example, if you come and work with me and if you don't like me after a few months, you are more than welcome. The law suggests that the law has the provision where you can change consultant in between. Absolutely no problem. Me as a consultant, we get a lot of clients. Actually, a lot of it when they are already working with somebody, they're not happy with the consultant. They come to me in between the projects. So we know how it works. Absolutely fine. So these are some of the aspects that I thought to highlight. It's going pretty good, and I will be hopeful that it will that 2024 will bring in even more positivity for Canadian startup visa, because this is at least one such business immigration program with reasonable investment. I will not say the low investment or minimum investment, because business immigration is never cheap and it will never ever be cheap. It's not a cheap process by any means, but at least it's one of the process that is working fine with a reasonable amount of investment. Is making sure that qualified entrepreneurs and professionals from all over the world are able to come to Canada to make a positive contribution on our economy. If you need our assistance with the process, please feel free to book a relevant professional consultation through the website. That's the first step. I'll be more than happy to have a case specific discussion with you and take it from there. Hope this helps, guys. See you guys in the next one. Bye now. Cheers.